Hello. Hello, Bleacher Report. Hello, YouTube, if you're watching after the fact. Hello, one and all. A very Merry Christmas to all those Raider fans out there who are feeling a certain type of way, positively or negatively, because there are, believe it or not, both sides to this feeling of, well, beating the Jacksonville Jaguars and snapping a 10-game losing streak. I was going to say winning streak. Losing streak. My name is Rodney. Thank you so much for coming back and watching another live stream, post, or upload on YouTube. It's nice having a Victory Monday, says Donuts Duncan right off the bat. Oh, we'll get into it. We'll get into the vibes. We'll get into the chaos of it all, which I'm kind of enjoying a little bit. Like, look, I'm a Raider fan, and I understand why that win didn't help us at all. And I might have even been rooting for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but we will discuss all of it. You guys know the drill. If you're watching on Bleacher Report, comment away. We'll be reading those sporadically. If you're watching after the fact on YouTube, leave some comments on there. If you don't know, I do have a YouTube channel. It is ALLaBorde Raiders. You could see that the way it's spelled, the bottom right. So going into this game yesterday, I was hyper aware, just like I'm sure all of you were, that this game was going to be of severe importance to our draft stock, right? Where would we be picking? First overall, sixth overall? And going into the game, I'm a human being. I have a brain in my head. I understand that losing the game would be better. And we're going to get into now where our draft position is and what are our options and make sure we're commenting away. When the game starts, I don't actively root for the Jaguars. Like when Mac Jones makes a bad play, I'm not like, come on, Mac, get the first down. I'm just kind of sitting there watching it. I'm not really rooting one way or another. I'm just taking it all in. And the more the game continued to progress, the more I started to realize fast that we were going to win this football game. And once it ended, I was extremely conflicted. Now, again, I understand the implications of winning this game. Would I rather have lost it? Probably. Yes, I will admit that. But we're going to get into the history of people who do have the first overall pick, who do draft a quarterback. We're going to get into the history of where you're going to fall in the draft order 2 weeks before the season ends versus right now. And we're going to talk about if the people that we think are going to get drafted in specific spots are actually going to get drafted there, because there are mock drafts that came out today that might suggest that we don't have to panic. Now, I'm not here to be the eternal optimist, right? I'm here to tell you the facts. And I see the comments going very, very rapidly. So as I pull up the box score of this game, I'm going to look at some of the comments right now. We screwed up our chances of getting a quarterback, no doubt about it. Raiders will always find a way to Raider. Dumbest win ever. Merry Christmas to you. Can't be mad. Jags even worse than the Raiders. They have a quarterback. Yeah, okay, so look, there's a lot of things to discuss. Let's try to break down this game the best we can, and then we'll get into the implications of everything that just happened. And Romero, I see that comment about who you were talking about drafting. We'll get to that in a second. In terms of the box score and the stats, it's pretty even across the board. We were way better on first downs, converting more first downs than they did, even though we could not get on the field to continue the drives on third down. We won the turnover battle, which is what I've been saying. This team, as it's currently constructed, is not good enough to win games if they don't win the turnover battle. And we had a lot more time of possession. Penalties were flying fast and furious in this game. I think there was 4 penalties, 2 on each team, on back-to-back plays. Now, look, this game, in terms of just watching this game and breaking it down, it was ugly. It was 2 not great football teams. I thought that the Jags would win this game only because I thought that their weapons would work better, would be more of a factor than ours. Unfortunately, they didn't know how to guard Brock Bowers. And if we pull up the stats here, we'll talk about Aiden in a second. Brock Bowers had, how many receptions did it say? 11 for 99, 9 a catch. I mean, that's phenomenal. We couldn't really run the ball all that well. Amir Abdullah had some nice runs toward the end of the game, and Aiden O'Connell looked mobile. Now, look, I'm not going to spend too much time on Aiden O'Connell. I'm just going to say this right off the bat. I thought he looked pretty good. I thought he was, a lot more mobile than we've seen him in the past. He didn't put the ball in harm's way. Yes, we were playing Jacksonville, who's not very good, but he made some scramble plays that I didn't think he would be able to do. Now, I'm not going to continue this whole should we bring Aiden back next year? Should he start? Blah, 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 because it's just beating a dead horse at this point. You guys know where I stand on this. He should have started since week 1. We'd probably have like 7 more 8 wins right now. He didn't start. It is what it is. He's clearly the best quarterback on this roster. That does not mean he's a franchise guy moving forward, although these last 2 games should be a little more interesting with him at the helm. As I get to this first poll, though, because yesterday, as we win the game, right, and, there's not a lot to talk about with this game specifically, but as we win the game, people were upset. And I would say justifiably so, because you go through a season where you lose so many games in a row just to have the 6th pick in the draft. It almost feels like, well, what even was this for? I would have rather had the 15th pick than the 6th pick, right? Wrong. However, that's how it's coming off in Raider Nation right now. So as I put this poll out here, I want you to this is a moment here to self-reflect, to take it all in, the stuff that you've read this morning, listening to me break this game down so far. What is the vibe that you are feeling after the win on a Monday afternoon? Okay? 3 p.m. Mountain, 5 p.m. Eastern. How are we feeling? Because I would say yesterday I was pretty angry. I would say since then I've cooled down a bit, and I think we're going to get into why I feel that way specifically. But in terms of how I feel, I think we're starting to mellow out, because I don't think it's as bad as people are saying, especially because there's 2 more weeks to go, right? We still have time to lose more games. We don't know where people are going to get drafted in certain positions. It's still December, okay? We have to kind of let everything play out. And I saw a bunch of people telling me in my YouTube comments yesterday, the Jags and the Titans play next week, this week coming. So no matter what the outcome of that game is, we will then be picking 5th, assuming we lose out. The problem is, we should probably root for the Titans to win that game. The problem is, we play the Saints, who have no quarterback and no weapons. And if we just beat the Jacksonville Jaguars pretty handily, I know the score was close, but it was a pretty handled game by us. There's a world in which we handle the Saints, which, is a potential problem, right? The Raiders are going to run out. Could you imagine that? We could still get the number 2 pick. Saints are favored to beat the Raiders by like 1 or 2 points, which means that we're actually technically favored because you get 3 points automatically for being at home, which means that Jacksonville was in a way favored in this game because we were only favored by 2.5, which is interesting. No franchise QB equals more years of sucking. Okay. So let's talk about the franchise QB, the Shedeur Sanders of it all, right? Because I get why people are angry. We've ruined our draft stock with 2 games to go. Okay. I want you to think back 2 seasons ago, if you will. The Houston Texans and the Carolina Panthers were on a fast track, a boat race to the number 1 overall pick. I couldn't even tell you who the quarterback of the Texans was that year. Oh, what's that guy's name? Davis Mills? Am I making that up? And then the Panthers are running out Baker Mayfield and I think Sam Darnold at one point. Fast tracking to the number 1 overall pick. And Lovie Smith, the coach of the Texans at the time, the last game of the season, won a game they should not have won. It cost them the first overall pick in the first round. He was then fired. They brought in DeMeco Ryans, and the rest is history. The Carolina Panthers took Bryce Young. The Texans took C.J. Stroud. We have no idea what would have happened if the Texans lost that last game, had the first overall pick. They might still tell you we would have taken C.J. Stroud. We have no idea. Now, Bryce Young has been playing a lot better recently, ever since the benching and the Andy Dalton freak car accident. But my point is this: every Houston Texan fan had to have been absolutely upset that they won that meaningless game to drop from 1 to 2. And it ended up working out for them. They were able to get the better quarterback, which might have been a little lucky. Now, I know what you're thinking as I say this. Us falling from 1 to 6 is not falling from 1 to 2 because we could still get a quarterback. And this is where I pose this question to you, right? Because we have no idea what quarterbacks are going to be up or down in the draft. We think Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are going to be the first 2 picks, but we don't know that for sure. If I told you in December of last year that 6 quarterbacks would be taken in the first 12 draft selections, you would have called me crazy. People were saying that Bo Nix and Michael Penix were second-round draft picks. It wasn't until the bowl games and the combine where they skyrocketed into the first round, and now they both look like pretty good players. In my opinion, Michael Penix was the best quarterback coming out last year. He was the 6th quarterback taken. So, with all that being said, digest it all. Let's pretend right now we have the 6th pick in the draft, and Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are gone. Drew Aller has said he's not coming out. He's going to stay for a senior season, or I don't know if he said that, but somebody in the building had said that. If he changes his mind, we could have a separate discussion because, in my opinion, he might be the best quarterback coming out. He's definitely got the highest upside. But the 3rd quarterback in this draft class is Jalen Milroe. So if we have the 6th pick in the draft and everyone on God's green earth is saying the Raiders need to take a quarterback no matter what, would you take Jalen Milroe with the 6th pick in the draft? Now, if you're voting no, I want you to comment. Are you saying then we should trade back and draft Jalen Milroe? We should draft the best player available, or we should trade up? So you'd rather give up multiple firsts to get Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward rather than draft Jalen Milroe with the 6th pick in the draft. Now, my opinion on this is let's wait till the combine. I'm leaning no, I would not take him with the 6th pick in the draft. But if Tom Telesco, who has been a proven quarterback whisperer in terms of the NFL draft, he was in the room when Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck were drafted. He was very much involved in the Philip Rivers of it all in San Diego, and he selected Justin Herbert, who was a great quarterback. I trust Tom Telesco to make the right pick here. Milroe has project written all over him. I don't think he's a first-round pick either. That's the thing about this draft that's kind of unfortunate, is that this is a weaker quarterback draft than it was last year. I've heard people say that Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward would be the 5th or 6th quarterback taken last year. And ultimately, my point is this: if these quarterbacks aren't yet that great prospect-wise, is there a chance that the teams drafting way up there aren't going to reach for them? Is there a chance that the price to trade up with the Patriots or with the Jags isn't going to be nearly as high as it would have been for us to go get Jane Daniels the year before? I see drafted 6th and traded back into the 1st. I don't hate that. Dillon Gabriel is a much better passer than Milroe. There is the Dillon Gabriel of it all. There have been whispers that we like Dillon Gabriel. We also have Tom Brady to help out too. I want you to think about this as well as I think about the combine and I think about how people skyrocket off the draft board. 2014, one of the better drafts we've had in a long time. Khalil Mack with the 1st pick that we had, and then the 2nd round it was Derek Carr, right? 2 staples of the league for years to come. I had no earthly idea who Khalil Mack was until the end of the combine. If you would have told me in the middle of that season that we would have the whatever it was, 5th pick in that draft, and we were going to take a defensive end out of Buffalo, I would have slapped you in the face. And then we're going to take the Fresno State kid, David Carr's brother. I would have been like, really? But Reggie McKenzie, good GM at the time, had a plan in place. We're going to take the best player available. We'll take our quarterback in the second round. And Derek Carr didn't end up being a franchise guy, but the peak of Derek Carr was pretty dang good for where he was selected in the second round. Got MVP votes. Can't deny that. Right? My point is this. It is December. We have no idea the type of player that's going to be there when we pick. And we also have no idea where we're going to be in this draft. There are still 2 games to go. Now, Aiden O'Connell is clearly leaps and bounds better than Desmond Ridder and Gardner Minshew. So if we win these next 2 games, we're going to be picking 9th or whatever. And that's another thing I'd like to touch upon before I get into the mock draft that I saw and if we should sign a specific quarterback in the offseason. I completely lost my train of thought. I said Aiden O'Connell is significantly better. We'd be picking 9th. Where was I going with that? I don't know. Let's move on. So as I close this poll here, close, I'm going to start a new one because there are some people that think we should draft Jalen Miller, some we shouldn't, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And this is all contingent on if this guy's available because the more he plays, the better he looks. Now, the problem is I don't know if they're just going to let him go. But let's just have the conversation because we've been talking about it for a while, and I want to see the vibe here. Oh, that's what I was going to say, which leads me to this. If we have the 9th pick in the draft, if we win next week, right? Oh, and that's what I was going to say. The problem this season specifically, and it's not the Raiders' fault, is that there are like 6 teams with 3 or worse wins. This has been one of the worst seasons in the NFL in terms of the bottom of the league. So 4 wins is going to get you like the 10th pick, which is unfortunate. It's very unlucky for anybody that's racing to the bottom. Should the Raiders go best player available and sign Sam Darnold? Now, the reason I pose this question is because the last time we had the first pick in the draft, I'll get to that donut in a second. The last time we had the first pick in the draft, it was 2008. We drafted Jamarcus Russell. We were coming off a season with, I think, Aaron Brooks as our quarterback. So everyone was like, well, the Raiders have to take a quarterback. They take Jamarcus Russell. The other quarterback that might have gone in the first round that year was Brady Quinn to the Cleveland Browns. Terrible quarterback draft class. I've heard this one is not that good either. Might be better than that one. It is what it is. Lane Kiffin, the coach at the time for that team. There are whispers that Lane Kiffin wanted to draft the best player available in that draft. And do you know the name of that best player available that we passed up on to have a shot at getting the transcendent John Elway 2.0 and Jamarcus Russell? Who was the best player available that Lane Kiffin wanted to draft in 2008, but we didn't because we took the franchise quarterback? You got it. Calvin Johnson. And he says, I wanted Calvin Johnson and Trent Edwards later on. Calvin Johnson was available for us to take with the first overall pick, one of the best wide receivers ever to grace the football field. And instead, we went to Jamarcus Russell because we had to take a quarterback. We had to. And instead of trading for a veteran or drafting someone maybe in the second round or signing someone in free agency, getting Calvin Johnson, maybe not being great another year, but then going to draft a quarterback in the next draft, we bent the knee and we took the quarterback. Now, I'm not comparing Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward to Jamarcus Russell. But that, again, this is not emotion. These are facts. That's what happened. And I just want to have a word of caution here. It is very, very dangerous to be dead set on drafting a quarterback and being wrong, especially when there could be generational talent to be had, like a Travis Hunter or the wideout from Arizona State. You will set your franchise back 5+ years if you get the quarterback wrong. That's why I posed the question, do we go all in on Sam Darnold, draft the wide receiver from Arizona State? So now our weapons are Brock Bowers, McMillan, Jacoby Myers, sign Najee Harris in the offseason, sign Sam Darnold. Now I saw the concern here. Who said it? Who said it? Who said it? Donuts Duncan, I believe. Sam Darnold is only good because of the system he's in. Well, guess what? I have the solution. And his name is Josh McCown. Josh McCown is the quarterback coach of the Minnesota Vikings. He knows the Kevin O'Connell system like the back of his hand. He's been coaching Sam Darnold to the best season of his career. And there are rumors that Scott Turner might go to North Carolina with Bill Belichick if we don't retain him, or even if we want to retain him. So whether or not we keep AP doesn't matter. Josh McCown, the quarterback coach of the team that Sam Darnold is currently playing for, can now come over and be promoted to our offensive coordinator and run the same exact system that they were running in Minnesota. And you would say to me, well, Sam Darnold has elite talent over there in Justin Jefferson. You ever heard of Brock Bowers? Well, they have a great number 2 wide receiver, no doubt about it. We have a decent one in Jacoby Myers. We could also draft someone. There are solutions out there to help us win games immediately. If we do not have the position to draft a quarterback in this draft, or if Telesco scouts and goes, we're going to wait for Drew Aller next year. That could be a plan to be had. Now, I know all you guys voted before that. Maybe I've convinced some of you. I've seen some people in there saying good call. Sounds dope. I'd be happy with Abdul Carter is a stud. Is our stud. Momo and saying that Liam Cohen should be the next head coach. I don't hate that either. Now, all that to say, we've been complaining about winning the game. Oh, poverty franchise. Mark Davis should be, tried in federal court for what he did to Raider fans. I just want to show you guys something that I saw when I woke up this morning on Christmas Eve, which is a mock draft. And I see Wavy Twin says, I can feel like Shedeur Sanders is going to be there at 6, in my opinion. It's so funny that you say that. Because if we pull up 2 separate CBS mock drafts posted this morning, the one on the left has us trading from 6 to 3 to draft Shedeur Sanders. On the left there you see. The other one has him falling to 6. And what I'm seeing on the right side here is not out of the realm of possibility to happen. Especially if Shedeur Sanders says, I'm not playing for Tennessee or Cleveland, which there are rumors that he wants to force his way to a specific team. Darnold is looking for a crazy contract, though. It's too risky. Well, look, we have all the money in the world. What if I told you he would get us 10 wins next year? Sam Darnold is leading the team right now. That might be the 1 seed in the NFC in the prime of his career. It's rare that these people hit the market. But anyway, back to this right here. Obviously, we would rather not trade up, right? That means we have to trade draft capital. If he falls to 6, that would be awesome. But for the people that would be upset that we were going to trade up, does it even matter? If you get your franchise quarterback, all right, trade up to go get him. If Shedeur Sanders is the guy, it doesn't matter who we trade up. Look at Jaden Daniels now. If I said we would have to trade 6 first-round picks to get him, you guys would all be like, yes, where do I sign up? So the fact that we might have to trade up to get this guy ultimately does not matter. It does not matter. So I just wanted to show you guys that post this win, 2 people on CBS Sports still have us landing the quarterback that everybody wants. Now, I'm not completely sold on Shedeur Sanders like everybody else. I do think this quarterback class is a little bit weaker. Again, Drew Aller was my guy. He has the highest upside of all of them. And if he's not coming out, then I might go best player available and draft Darnold. or draft Darnold, sign Darnold. The doomsday, quote unquote, scenario is Sam Darnold gets franchise tagged or re-signs with the Vikings. We're picking sixth, and 3 quarterbacks go before 6, which means we're going to have to go best player available, maybe run it back with Aiden, trade for somebody. I don't know if Matthew Stafford is going to be available at the end of the season. Draft a Jackson Dart in the second round or a Dylan Gabriel. That's doomsday scenario. Aiden has showed me that he can be competitive. Obviously, right now he doesn't look like a franchise guy, but he looks like a fringe starter, right? And he's also hasn't played a full 17 games. So that is the potential doomsday scenario. But all that to say, and look, I was as angry as everybody else was yesterday, but sometimes you just have to take a step back and realize, number one, we have no idea where we're going to be picking. There are still 2 games to go with a lot of games yet to be played. Right? If we weren't supposed to win that game yesterday, the Giants or the Browns or the Titans can win a game or 2 they weren't supposed to win. Number 2, we don't know how good these quarterbacks like Jackson Dart, Dylan Gabriel, or Jalen Miller are going to look in the combine that might propel themselves into the first round. I'm crossing my fingers that Drew Aller is going to change his mind and actually declare for the NFL draft, although I don't think it's going to happen right now because next year he will be the first pick overall, assuming Arch Manning doesn't come out. And last but not least, everything's going to be okay. Christmas is in a few days. Have some hot cocoa. Watch Home Alone 2, the greatest Christmas movie of all time. Don't let it ruin your holiday, especially when winning might not be the worst thing. Just ask the Houston Texans and the Carolina Panthers. Thank you so much for watching. 26 minutes of trying to cope with beating a team that was terrible, that we probably had no business beating in the first place. If Aiden O'Connell looks like Tom Brady these last 2 games, maybe we need to have a separate discussion. But for right now, here's what I'll leave you with. The last game of the season is against the Chargers. Wouldn't it be funny if we beat them to eliminate them from the playoffs? That would be kind of funny. Romero says Polar Express is better. You're a psycho. You should be checked into a hospital. Thank you so much for watching. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good evening, a good night. And I'll see you next week, Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you don't know that I have a YouTube channel, go visit me. Go check me out. We're doing this 3 times a week. Thank you again, Bleacher, for having me. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.